Hi everyone, this is my presentation on CSS corners, borders, and shadows. Alright, so for corners, there's a property that controls corners with CSS and it's called border radius. Border radius is actually a shorthand property and it wraps up some other properties, and we have an example of one down here called border top left radius. So you can specify each specific corner with properties such as this, or you can use the border radius property and wrap it all into one property. With border radius, the larger the number is, the more rounded the corner will be. Okay, so here we have an example using the shorthand property border radius, and I've listed 4 numbers here. The first number, 15 pixels, that applies to the top left corner. The second number applies to the top right. The third number applies to the lower right, and the last number applies to the lower left. This is also an interesting thing you can do with corners that I was previously unaware of. So you can make the corners elliptical, and the way you do that is by using border radius, and you have your 2 dimensions separated by slash. So the first dimension is how far out it begins the corner on the x-axis, and then the second number is how far from where the corner would be that it will start on the y-axis. So I'll show you some demonstrations of the corners in this code pen. Alright, so we're going to work with the box on the top. So we're using the border radius property, and let's just start with one number, 20 pixels. So here you can see it's applied to all 4 corners. Let's add one more number, and you can see where the numbers are applied. So the first number is applied to the top left and the lower right. Second number is applied to the top right and the lower left. Okay, let's add another one and see where that's applied. So now you can see the third number has now been specifically applied to the lower right corner. And last of all, we'll put 4 numbers in, and so you can see when you put 4 numbers in the border radius property, the upper left is first, upper right is second, lower right is third, and lower left is fourth. Okay, let's do an example of the elliptical, making the corners elliptical. So maybe we could put like 50 pixels on the x direction, gotta put a backslash, forward slash, whatever that is. And we'll do 10 pixels in the y direction, and that will apply to all corners. We can make it a little sharper on the y direction here. We can do that. So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't know about that before. Alright, let's go back to our presentation. We'll talk about borders now. Okay, so the property we're looking for to control the borders is called border. It incorporates several other properties into it, so it's a shorthand property. If you wanted to specify the specific properties of width, style, and color, you can use the properties I have listed. But if you're going to use the shorthand, you can just use the border, and then the first you put in a number, which is the width, then you put the style, and then the color. And so here you can see I have an example of a 5 pixel border that's dashed and it's black. Let's talk a little bit about width. So the width can be in different units. You can put it in inches, pixels, points, and various other ones. There's also predefined values. You can just put thin, thick, or medium. And it can also have 1 to 4 values. Similar to how we had the corners, you could put 1 number in and it's going to apply to all 4 corners. It's the same thing with borders. If you put in 1 number, it will apply to all 4 borders. 2, and it will be a little different. And I'll show you that in a demonstration here in a second. Here's some of the styles we can pick from. So you can see those. And colors, you can put in different formats of colors. You can just say the name. You can say red, green, dark gray. You can use hex, RGB, and some others. Okay, let's do a demonstration of borders. So we're going to look at this gray box now. Okay. So let's just we'll do the border property first. We'll do 20 pixels. We'll do solid. And then we'll do dark gray. Alright, so there you can see how that looks. So if you want to change the thickness, you can go right here. You got 10 pixels, you can make it thinner. You can do dashed. You can also do one that's kind of neat. It's called inset, or there's also one called outset. So you get that kind of effect. There's outset. So you can go like that. Okay. I'm going to set this back to something a little more plain, and then we'll look at border width. So just another demonstration of how it applies if there's one number or 2 or 3 or 4. So let's do 10 pixels, well, which is already what it's set to. So that's one number. It's applying to all of the sides. You can do 2 numbers, and so the second number is now applying to the sides. 3 numbers. The third number is now applying to the bottom. And if you go with 4 numbers, now you've got first number is the top, second number is the right, third number is the bottom, fourth number is the left side. Okay? Alright. So that's borders. Now let's talk about shadows for just a second. So the property we're going to use to control the shadows is called box shadow. That's if we have an item. If it's text, we're going to be using text shadow. So box shadow, these are all the different parameters that can go into it. This is one I didn't know about before. You can do an inset shadow if you want, or you can leave it off if you'd like. My figure on the left is with the inset shadow, and the figure on the right is a traditional, just normal shadow with the default settings. So what these numbers mean, the first number is how far the shadow is offset in the x-axis. Positive numbers are to the right, negative numbers are to the left. Second number we have, that's going to be your y offset, and so positive numbers are actually down and negative numbers would be up. 5 is controlling the blur radius. That's how blurry your shadow is going to be. And then the next number is going to be your spread radius. That's just how much it's going to be spreading out. And then, of course, you can change the color. All right. So here's the text shadow property. It's similar to box shadow, but it has a few less parameters. So the first 2 numbers are the x and y offsets, and then we have the blur radius as the third number, and then we have a color we can set. Interesting thing about this property is color can go before or after the other parameters. Okay. So my sources for this presentation were W3 Schools and also MDN Docs, and I'm going to go back and show you one last demonstration with the shadows. Alright, let me find it in my thing. Okay, so for shadows, we already have one in here. Oh, that's for text, sorry. So we'll do 10 pixels in the X direction, 10 pixels on the Y, and then we'll make this one, we'll say black. Looks like black is the default anyway. Okay, so there's that. Maybe I'll make these different so we can see one is X and one is Y. So there's our X. X is bigger, it's the first number. Now if we make it negative, it's going to go to the other side. So off to the left. And if we make y negative, it's going to go up there. Alright, so we can do that. Let's look at the blurring effect here. So we can do a blur radius. So let's start with something small, 5 pixels. So you can see it adds a little bit of blur. Let's go with 50 now. Now you can see it's like really blurred out. Okay. Go back to 5. That's the blur radius. And now we have the spread radius. So let's start with something small. So it's kind of spreading out there. To me, this looks like it's kind of like coming out from the page more. Let's do something big. Now it's looking like it's like way big, so it's spread out quite a bit. Okay. And one last thing I'll show is you can also put in 2 different shadows or multiple shadows on one object. You just have to separate it by a comma. So let's do one here. We'll do say 10 pixels. 10 pixels. Blur it slightly. 6 pixels. And we'll make it red so we can see the difference. So there you can apply 2 different shadows on the same object in different directions. You just separate them by a comma. Okay. I won't demonstrate the text shadow because it's all the same idea. So hopefully that is helpful for you. Hope everyone is enjoying the class. And I will see you later.